We didn't go into Naira and cover discussion. Now, the status quo in terms of the amount, 250 and 62,000, remains until we finish this conversation.
Okay. Thank you very much.
As the new minimum wage negotiations resumed between the labor leaders and the government, this time the meeting was held in Aso Rock with Tinubu in attendance. The first statement he made was that we must cut our coat according to our clothes. Looking at this statement, it is laced with a little bit of arrogance and some sort of subjugation. Why is it that when it comes to paying workers a living wage, you hear all sorts of excuses, all sorts of stories, but it never applies to Nigerian leaders? Take for instance, in this kind of hardship that they plunged Nigerians, they are talking about purchasing 2 presidential jets, despite the fact that we still have 1 presidential jet or even more that are functional. At least Remi Tinubu traveled with 1 to Belarus. In fact, she had an audience with the Belarusian president. According to the Nigerian constitution, she doesn't have any constitutional role. She cannot represent the government in any official capacity. So that means that she shouldn't fly a presidential jet alone, except her husband is going somewhere, she's accompanying the husband. But here we are, they are abusing the powers of their office. They can't cut their coat according to their size because there is serious hardship. Every penny counts. When it comes to paying workers a living wage, they will be giving you excuses. They'll be telling you to sacrifice, to do all sorts of things to make sure that you earn a wage that can't even take you home, a wage that can't last you for 1 week.
When father and children talk, you know what it is. That's just exactly what happened. And it took us almost like an hour. And I believe that it's awful.
Okay. Was that?
No, we'll come back to the question. Father and children talk. NLC, can we get you?
Yeah, the president is the father of the nation. Very controversial that.
No, the discussion at the meeting.
In real terms, it wasn't a negotiation, it was a discussion. So we have had that discussion.
And how in the world did they invite labor union leaders to discuss the minimum wage, and they never discussed the minimum wage? They were only discussing the high cost of living. No form of negotiations took place. They didn't say, okay, we are coming up from 62,000 to about 90 or 100,000. Labor unions didn't have any need to say, okay, we are coming down from 250,000 naira to anywhere. So they just wasted 1 hour. Labor union leaders made sure that they understood the high cost of living. So it's obvious that the meeting was called in Aso Rock to intimidate the labor union leaders into accepting 62,000 as new minimum wage. Yes, there's no other way to say it. They can't call a meeting with an agenda and end up not discussing the agenda in the same meeting. It was just a total waste of time. And for those who have the penchant of always blaming the labor union leaders, that they are very quick to call off strikes and many other things they say, of course now it seems that the people that are opposing them are coming from the government, because you can see that they have been resolute in demanding a living wage for Nigerian workers. There's nothing wrong in calling off a strike or suspending it. After all, they want to achieve a new minimum wage. That's their objective. Suspending a strike doesn't mean that they have accepted. Yes, but people always blame them, say, they have sold out, they have collected money, they have done this, they've done that. But up till now, you can see that there is no evidence. They've continued to insist that Nigerian workers deserve a living wage. When you are negotiating with bad faith actors, you must make sure you follow some rules. You must make sure you are flexible so that they will not turn around and blame you and say, you're interested in bringing down the government. You are not interested in wage increase. Like Tinubu already said, he mentioned that before.
The labor union should understand that no matter how much we cling to our freedom and rights, to call for strike within 9 months of an administration is unacceptable. If you want to participate in the electoral process, wait on the 27.
So you can understand that they are being meticulous about it. When the government says, please call off the strike, come let's negotiate, just obey them because you have an objective. If after the negotiation you find out that they are not negotiating in good faith, you simply resume the strike. That's how it works. So people blaming them that they suspended the strike are just not understanding how all these work. You can't just continue striking without any achievement, without any objective. In the beginning, the government negotiated in bad faith. They were thinking, Nigerians wouldn't come out, the compliance would be very low. But when they saw that airports, national grid, everywhere was shut down in Nigeria, they quickly said, we must call these people, we must invite them to negotiate, otherwise they will shut down the country. And immediately they invited them, the labor union leaders obeyed and suspended the strike. There's nothing wrong in the suspension. After all, there's nothing preventing the resumption of the strike. They have postponed the meeting to next week. When they attend that meeting and the government continues to insist on 62,000 naira minimum wage, the labor union leaders can simply walk out of the meeting and refuse to accept it, and the strike can resume. Then, if the economy is shut down for 1 week, the government will come back to their senses and find the money to pay workers. Yes, they are busy creating new ministries despite the fact that they already have a very large cabinet, the largest in Nigeria's history. But when it comes to paying workers living wage, they will start giving them all sorts of excuses. They should find that money and pay workers because they actually caused the problem in the first place. Like already said, if the naira wasn't devalued, there wouldn't be any reason to increase the minimum wage more than even 40,000 naira. Yes, that's the reality. Because when you consider the price of goods, the cost of living early last year, when you compare that to now, you will see that the naira devaluation and the price discrepancy is up to 300%. So why don't they want to apply the same 300% increase on minimum wage? Yes, at least nothing less than 100,000 should be acceptable for now. Even that 100,000 can't take anyone home, but at least it is a starting point. 62,000 naira minimum wage is just an insult because that 62,000 can't even buy a bag of rice. It can't buy a bag of beans. Is it transportation costs that it will pay for the worker for 1 month? What about house rent? What about other personal expenses? What if that person has a family? How is he going to cope? So these are the issues. These people should understand that there is serious benefit in paying workers a living wage because that will reduce serious corruption. Most of the people jostling for jobs in the civil service or other government agencies simply do it because of job security. They know that when they finish serving their 35 years, they will still get their pension for life. Yes, it's not because of the money they pay. Most of them finish serving 35 years and they can't even boast of their own home. There's nothing like home mortgage available for civil servants or other Nigerians. Another thing they always talk about is the fact that governors can't pay or that the private sector can't pay the new minimum wage that Labour is proposing. That's not the problem. Let the government pay first. The labor unions will handle the private sector. When they picket them 1 or 2 times, they will pay the minimum wage. That's how it works. So let them stop giving excuses. Let them pay workers living wages. Another excuse they come up with is that when government increases the minimum wage, that it always causes inflation, that landlords always increase their rent whenever they see that civil servants' salaries have been increased, or that market prices will respond to the new minimum wage. Many other things they say. No. Let's even assume that these concerns are true. Then it means they are symptoms of a bigger problem than problems itself. Because if landlords increase rent, that means there is serious shortage of homes in Nigeria. Ordinarily, if there is a working system in Nigeria, not just for civil servants or other workers, but the entire Nigerian workforce, if there is this system where someone gets employed, he just works for 3 months, the savings he got under the 3 months from his salary alone can qualify him to get a home mortgage. If that is available, that means majority of the workers will be living in their own homes and paying mortgages, not living on rent. So there wouldn't be issues like landlords will increase their rent because of salary increase. If homes are surplus in Nigeria, it will drive down the cost of rent. This is Economics 101. On whether the increase of salaries will cause high inflation. We already have high inflation. We are experiencing the highest food inflation in Nigeria's history. food inflation is about 40%. The reason is simple. 1. Naira devaluation. Nigerians need to count more naira notes to buy what they used to buy for less. Second is petrol subsidy removal, which has caused an increase in transportation costs. Food merchants in the south buy most of the food in Middle Belt and the north. They have to move them to the south. And this costs money. Imagine the cost before petrol subsidy removal and what it costs today. And the third reason is low production. We must increase food production. We must increase farming by tenfold or even more. We need to flood the market with food. This will drive down the price of the food. It's very simple. And why is it difficult to increase production? It's simply because of the attacks by herders and bandits on farmers. You see many farms being destroyed by livestock. You see all sorts of things they do to farmers. In fact, they have targeted farmers. More than 4,000 to 5,000 farmers have lost their lives the past few years. So you can't be saying that you have high food inflation without doing anything about the food production. If you increase production, it will drive down the cost of food. Whether the naira is devalued or cost of movement of the food is expensive, the price of the food will still come down because it's pure economics. When supply is more than demand, the price goes down. But when demand is higher than the supply, the price will go haywire. Thanks for watching.